Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon. For those that have watched our previous recordings, thank you and welcome back. For those that have joined our previous events, thank you and welcome back as well. My name is Cassandra Francis, and I am the founder as well as one of the psychotherapists at One Piece Therapy. And today we have Princess Patrick-Okose, who will be presenting on the major principles for making a marriage work. I'm sure it's a very hot topic. We all want not even our only marriage, but even our relationship, our engagements to work. So this is a very packed webinar. If you have any questions, any comments, please use the comment section if you're watching the recorded version, or use the chat option for those that are attending live. And give it to you, Princess.
Yeah. So hi everyone. Like Cassandra said, my name is Princess Patrick-Okose, and I'm one of the psychotherapists in One Piece Therapy. And again, today we'll be talking about the major principles for making marriage work. So marriage counseling, this is just a type of counseling in which couples seek help, typically trying to resolve any issues they're currently having, or just basically trying to improve their relationship. And this involves usually like two people. So it is core. So marriage counseling is meant to basically help couples understand and resolve conflicts to improve their relationship. It's intended to help couples, help them, give them the tools on how to communicate while applying compassion and with less fear, and trying to problem solve or deal with the conflicts that they're currently having. Okay, of course, this is a huge one, warning signs for divorce. And when it comes to divorce, one of the main key strategies is communications. Sometimes we just don't know how to express ourselves, or how to really let our partner know what we're going through, or how, or what impact it's having on us, whatever issue it is. So warning signs of divorce can come in different ways. So number one is through harsh communications. And this there's like this four horsemen, which was actually stated by Dr. Gottmer, like the main person behind couples therapy, with extensive research and knowledge and applications, which has really come out to be really positive and productive towards couples. Um, so again, like I said, there's a lot of research with applying all of these things. It has really narrowed it down to how problems can be solved during relationship conflict. And one of it is harsh communication. So when you have a problem with your partner, the way you start is one of the key strategies, whether that issue is going to be resolved or not. So the harsh communication startup, this refers to conversations that leads to sarcasm, bitterness, negativities, and so on. So the way we respond, or the way we start a communication, is very important. So when we talk about communication, first, I would say appreciation is number one key ingredient you have to bring to the table. So appreciating your couple, your partner, no matter what, trying to be kind, trying to remember what actually led you into that relationship, how it was at the beginning before you guys got to that, these hurdles that you're trying to resolve. So let's not ever leave out the compassion and kindness, um and just support in general. Like, when you're working at a normal place, right, you're always kind. You're trying to be kind in order for someone to patronize something from you. So these are the same strategies we have to apply towards our relationship. So according to Dr. Gardner, there are four, what he calls, horsemen. And that's number one, criticism, that adds negative words to a compliment about spouse's character or personality. And the other one is contempt, which conveys disgust, like, even with your facial expression, the way you, position your face, your head, your body language just kind of like says it all, right? So we really want to be careful when we communicate in that manner, because that kind of like defeats the purpose. Your partner is not beginning to read your body language instead of really listening to what you have to say. So we have to be mindful. So then again, there's the defensiveness. Defensiveness, really a way of blaming spouse. So just labeling like, oh, you're the cause of this problem. It was you. Yeah, we know the problem is that for sure. Or how about really again bringing in the kindness and compassion before communicating that piece? Because there's no way you communicate with compassion and kindness that that may actually bring up the defensiveness. So defensiveness comes from the way you interact, the way you're communicating. So again, when it comes to marriage, the key ingredients is kindness, compassion, and love, no matter what's happening. So again, then there's the stonewalling, which is really the hardest of them all. You just tuning your partner out. You don't want to say anything. Again, we use this word as a form of malice, right? We just don't want to say anything. Sometimes you end up sharing separate rooms. You're just not talking to each other. Even if one party is trying to communicate, you don't want to say anything. But again, the question is, how productive is that? Right? How productive is that? So we really want to be mindful about, sorry, Cassandra, did you say something? Okay. I thought you did. Right. So we really want to be mindful about this stonewalling, because this is where a lot of things can happen. This is where your partner can start seeking attention from another party, just looking for ways to distract that moment. So we really, really want to be careful about it. No matter the direction of your relationship or where it's heading, you really want to communicate. You want to try to also wear the other party's lenses to see where they're coming from in every aspect of whatever it is that's going on.
Yes, I think you read my face, Princess. I
Okay.
think I was about to say something
Okay.
when you were done. But yes, I just wanted to like point out the stonewalling, uh, I guess, communication style, right? As you're emphasizing it, it really is about the two partners communicating with each other during a time of conflict. So I know sometimes when people feel like, okay, well, I just shut down, like I don't want to have this conversation right now. I can't have this conversation right now, or what I say could make it worse. Right. And I really, again, just want to say what you're saying about stonewalling is there's no communication. Right. Whereas if someone, they feel like they can't have this conversation right now, they need some space, that's okay to take that time and therefore tune out after you communicated that is your need. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I want to highlight that difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but at the same time, when it comes to relationship, you know your partner better, right?
Right.
These are all the attentions you have to, these are all the things you have to pay attention to. When it
Right.
comes to communication like this, perhaps my partner don't want to involve right now, but again, how long are we supposed to wait, right? How
Right.
long is partner going to be ready? Does your partner want you to check up on them, while it's happening? So these are like communication you can always have prior to all of these things. If you're tuning out, how long would you want me to wait?
Yeah.
Would you want me to check on you? Just let's try to see how we can work together, right? Because sometimes what happens is also like partners can be like, oh, I'm tuning out, I don't really want to communicate this piece. And most times I hear the other party asking questions like, okay, when would you like to communicate?
Right.
Again, there's no response. So that party also doesn't have what to work with, so it can be hard. So this is where you have to basically bring out your ingredient or the things or your values, the things that works for you, in order for your partner to know who you are and how to handle you when situations like that occurs. Does that make sense, Cassandra?
Yes, absolutely. Thank
Yeah.
you, Princess.
Okay. So then there's another one, flooding, again defined by Dr. Gardner. This is the head of relationship, couples, marriage, who has really explored so much and has kind of like brought out the recipe towards a healthy relationship. So flooding in relationship is a sensation of feeling psychologically and physically, which is overwhelming during conflict, making it virtually impossible to have a productive problem-solving conversation. So that simply means there's like, you're talking to your partner is talking back at you. So there's just a lot of emotions everywhere. Nobody's really listening, right? So instead of saying, oh, you do this, instead you can use words like, oh, okay, so when this happened, when that happened, it made me feel this way. So you want to be able to express your feeling instead of just pointing out the problem. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. Okay, Cassandra. Yeah. So then again, by Dr. Gartner, there are like 7 principles to a healthy marriage. If we're able to apply these principles or this ingredient, then we're definitely going to have a more productive relationship where we're being understood, we are valued, and it just makes it easier on both parties. So principle 1 is enhancing your love map. So what is love map? Love map is a part of brain where you store all of the relevant information about your spouse's life. And I have been in situations where a spouse will go like, oh, I don't remember anything. I know you said this and you said that. I know you'd want to be handled this way, but somehow I just don't remember anything. And and we know that's your personality, but at the same time, your spouse is making it known what they would love in that relationship. So you have to try. If you don't remember things, this is where journaling is important. So have a diary, write out the important informations, check back on those, diaries or whatever it is you're writing once in a while to see how you can make it up. And this kind of like includes, for instance, just making a cup of coffee. If your part Okay, so if your partner says, "Oh, I'd love for you to like, serve me or make me something nice to make me feel good," then okay, how can you bring that to reality? Because when you're not doing that, or when you never make any attempt in fulfilling that aspect, your spouse basically feels unloved in that very moment, right? They feel they are not valued, they are not seen, so a lot of things starts coming to mind. So this is where relationship is not just having a relationship, is also about compromise. So you have to compromise certain aspect of your life in order to accommodate your relationship, which is very important. So knowing each other's goals and worries and hope. So knowing each other is basically, and how do you do that? Is you having to check on your spouse, letting them know, okay, I feel this way, or this is happening in my life, and I would love to be supported this way. And just to give like a random example, a part your spouse can come in from her work and tell you about the challenges they're having, right? You can always check back on them. How do you feel? How is your workspace? Making them, this kind of like signifies that you have them in mind. You're remembering them. What bothers them also bothers you, right? So you want to be able to accommodate all of these things. So this is where again compassion, because we cannot have a relationship without compassion and kindness. This is where all of this, ingredient comes in. This is how you showcase it. So it's not about waiting, because I did have a client who went like, oh, I always buy my wife gift to make her feel loved, and the wife doesn't appreciate it, when really that's not what the wife was looking for. She just wanted those tiny little gestures that would happen at random times in every day. And he wasn't doing that. Instead, he was just waiting for like the big ones like birthdays or any celebrations to show up, right? So this is where communication again is important. How would you want me to show up for you? How would you Okay, go ahead, Cassandra.
Oh, sorry. Yes, and I think this goes back to what you're also saying about you have to know your partner. You have to know who you're with and be really attentive to their needs, right? Or even if you don't know all their needs, because we're not mind readers either, that's where the communication comes in. Ask, is this your need? What do you like? There was a quote, and I forgot exactly how it goes, but essentially, it's like, it's not a quote. I think it's like a little story. But
Okay.
basically, that the husband would every day, let's say it's a 30-year marriage, every day he gave his wife roses, right? Every day when he comes home, she gets a rose. But they ended up separating, and he asks, how come you want to leave? Like, every day I give you a rose. I've done this for 30 years. And she says, because I don't like roses.
Hmm.
So the whole time he think he's doing his best, he's pouring into her, he's giving roses, not realizing that his wife doesn't like roses, she doesn't like flowers, right? So that's where the love map of know who you're with and communicate if you're not sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's actually what happened there. So you just cannot assume and feel like, oh, you want to do it your way when perhaps you're doing it your way because maybe that's how you'd love for someone else to show up for you, right? So communicating, asking questions, how would you want me to show up? What you like, just trying to have all of those informations to enable you get to know your partners and see how you can support them or how you can show up for them during that time. Then there is like principle two, which is nurture your fondness and admiration. So feeling that your spouse is worthy of honor and respect, right? Which is one of the biggest foundations when it comes to relationship, right? So while building the foundations, there are key values you want to lay down, which is honor and respect. I know sometimes we feel like, oh, love has to come in, but somehow love doesn't really show up on the list until all of these other values are showing up. So where you see honor and respect, automatically you are going to see love, right? You are going to feel seen. But where there's no honor and respect, there's no way love can be, in that setting or in that gathering. So again, focus on the past and how the marriage started out and see how you can improve on the issues that has happened before or what areas just in general you can improve on. Again, this boils down to communication, right? So there has to be times where you have to set aside to communicate with your partner to see, how the marriage is going and what you'd want, what extra ingredients you'd love to have in that union. So having a positive review of your spouse in marriage is a powerful buffer for when bad times hit. So again, this is another important piece, right? And reminding yourself of your spouse positive qualities. And this is really important because when all those negative times comes in, when you're having all of those challenges, right? Sometimes we just tend to focus on that moment or in the heat of the moment while forgetting about all the positive things the person has. So as much as it could be a challenging thing, but you want to start putting this into practice. While going through those hurdles, try to also remember the positive things. Why did you go on this journey in the first place? What does this person have that made you make that choice, right? Does that person still have these qualities? Then if yes, how about also focusing on those things to, somehow neutralize the bitterness or the anger that's currently happening to you?
Yes, I just want to highlight how much awareness is required in this principle. Because
Mhm,
as you said, does your partner still have these qualities? And if so, focus on the positives that, created the bond.
mhm,
Because truthfully, sometimes we get into relationships or marriages and we feel like someone has changed, right? Who we fell for is no longer who we see in front of us. Uh,
mhm.
and I think that that's where it's important that you like what you're saying and confirm if I'm wrong. Um, you, if the qualities are still there, focus on those qualities and not the smaller moments of conflict. But also check, are those qualities truly there? And if they're
Mhm.
not, that is a whole other conversation. Right.
Yeah, because again, remember the qualities was the attractive force that got you into that relationship. And this is, and I name those qualities values. So the values your partner had that made you decide to go on that journey. And like you said, Cassandra, which is true, sometimes people change, right? Again, this is where communication is so important when it comes to relationship. So when you see those signs, you also want to address those signs. Okay, this is who you were, this is what I noticed and what's happening, so you can see and clarify whatever issue is behind the scene and how you guys can move forward. Then there is the principle three, which is turn towards each other than instead of away from each other. This is again like the stonewalling, right? So having small moment of connections. I know life is busy, right? Nowadays is like, oh, everything goes by so fast. You come from work, maybe if you have kids, and everything just goes by fast. But being intentional, because remember, the way you have your job, the way you're investing into your job is also the way you have your relationship, and you will also have to invest in it. And whatever you don't invest doesn't grow. So you have to make sure that it's like a plant, right? You have to keep watering it, making sure it's okay, checking on it in order for you to see the growth and that it's flourishing and all of that. So you just cannot neglect it and feel like, oh, it's okay, and try to do it whenever you want to do it. This is where it's important. So the eyes or the lenses you have towards your job is also the lenses you should have towards all of these areas of your life. So letting your spouse know he or she is valued during the grind of everyday life, creating an emotional bank account for future tough times. So what's an emotional bank account? This is quite interesting because an emotional bank account is very important in a relationship. When you're having all of these struggles or the relationship challenges, right? Sometimes couples can evaluate themselves and see that, oh, you know what? Why should I be in this relationship? What do I want to have? Because you don't have that emotional bank account because you've not been able to collect enough, enough, well, I say support, like admiration, just so many things, and whatever you see are things that you can collect and put in that bank account that when struggles come or when those challenges hit, you can go back to that bank account and try to debit from it. I know that this is happening. I know there's this area of our life that is great right now, but somehow there's also these areas that has been flourishing. So maybe I can cushion myself in this area before really, clarifying or seeing how we can resolve whatever conflict that's currently going on in our relationship.
That's a great metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that can really be used even for people that are quite practical, right? Because I know sometimes relationships can feel like very much so hard work and you constantly have to put into it. But for those that are practical or maybe in the financial industry, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, we do want to build wealth, right? That helps a long living relationship for various reasons. So I like that.
Yeah, yeah, it is a really good word because that's what we can, always have to keep falling back, to cushion us during those tough times,
Exactly. Those rainy days, they call
those
it.
raining days. Yeah. So again, here's principle four, which is let your partner influence you. And again, like Gottmer said, women tend to challenge to tend to accept their spouse's influence more than men. And I believe this comes with ego. Like I don't want my wife, to play certain role in my life, or it depends on ego, and I will say also cultural thing, right? So so it depends on where you are sitting in your relationship to see how this shows up in your relationship, right? So again, influencing each other, it's an important piece, right? You will have to be able to see, or your wife has to be able to take some credit your husband also has to be able to take some credit when it comes to certain aspects, because that just makes you feel good. It's like a child coming to you and saying, "Oh, mom, look at my drawing. How does it look?" You want to be able to say, "Oh, wow, it's amazing," no matter what. So that extra support, influence is something that it's quite important in a relationship as well. So men, again, who allows their wife to influence them with happier, have happier marriages and are less likely to divorce, right? Because that means it's not just influencing, it means you're listening, right? You're communicating, and you're also like applying it to your personal life, right? So that's what it means. Like, my wife or my partner is hearing me. So letting your spouse influence your decision making by taking his or her opinion into account, right? So not just waking up and taking certain decisions or rash decisions. And I see that a lot when it comes to the financial aspect, where sometimes men just wake up and take certain decisions without including their wife, which really can end up bringing a lot of issues into that marriage. So whatever happens, remember there are two people involved. So you cannot make certain decisions without your partner. And again, this is where compromise comes from. I know you're used to, or perhaps you're used to doing things a certain way before getting married. Well, a reminder is here, you're not alone. Just another person that's with you that you always want to consider. And if it's so hard, you can think about it. Try to flip it the other way. Try to go on that person's shoes. How would you feel if they take certain decisions without you, something that can impact the family? How would you feel? And if you have that response, that simply means that's exactly the way your partner is feeling in whatever decisions you just made.
So go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead. No, Cassandra, that's okay. You're mute.
Sorry. So I'm curious. I do have a question, more so from the audience perspective, right?
Mhm.
So I know you're not finished with the principles as yet, but because each relationship is different, right? So far, with the four principles you've mentioned, would you say like all of them have to be included? Like, does this have to be included in a marriage for it to work, or can some be more loose than others?
Well, again, like, it's a different world right now, Cassandra, and that's a really good question, right? It's a different world right now because when we look at the marriages we had, um, well, I say years ago, is definitely different from what they have right now. And what they have right now is simply a definition of marriage where people set rules, you have to follow those rules. And so this is kind of like now a personal thing. So if you went into a relationship and say, you know what, we want to keep our financial aspects separate, then there's an agreement to do that before coming into the marriage, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
this is just more like a general principle on how to make marriage flourish. Because no matter what, even with the principles of, okay, let's keep our financial aspects separate.
Mhm.
It's separate. But really, is that trust there? What's making you guys keep that relation or that financial aspect separate?
Mm,
Was it something that happened during the relationship or inside the marriage? What led to that aspect? Because again, marriage is really like you seeing a better half of you.
mhm,
So it's
mhm,
like you're trying to prevent the other half from assessing the other aspect of you. Does that make sense?
mm.
So
Yeah.
again, I'm not saying the rules are standard, but I'm saying nowadays rules, of course, they are like, situations where you can bend. So whatever works for you works for you. So if there's an agreement, then that works. But on this topic, this is more like a general thing.
Right.
People who are doing things together, people who perhaps, because sometimes you have like the financial aspect together. I've had that case before where at a certain stage in their relationship, they're like, okay, you know what, this is not working. We have to separate it. And when you do that, no matter what you do, it just can not be as real as it was before, right? Because one party will always feel left out, like the door, it just feels like the door has been shut on you, right? So
Mm,
instead of shutting the door, you want to go back and try, and if possible, seek for couples counseling, right? To see where the problems came from and to have an idea what that has what impact that has had towards your relationship, and see how you both can resolve those issues before making certain decisions.
Right. Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. It's again, I think that the whole theme here is
Mhm.
communicate.
Communication.
I think that that goes back to any changes that occur in a relationship. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Communicate if that's okay with your partner. I think ultimately too, of course, sometimes it's challenging to know how to communicate these certain concerns or needs or a change of mind or heart. And truly therapy is a great space for that, right? So a therapist like Princess can guide a couple's relationship on how do you communicate things that are challenging, right? How do you get your point across, um, to have things work out for you in your own relationship?
That's correct. So principle 5, which is solve your several problems. And this, like, there are two type of problem in marital conflict, which is the solvable problems, the problems we can actually handle, and the perpetual problems. So the problems that are just ongoing, I'll put it this way, it's more like look at the things that are within your control and the things outside of your control, right? So let's say, for example, again, on the financial aspect, your partner doesn't have a job, right? There's nothing you can do. You are working towards doing something, but in that very moment, there's nothing you can do. So accepting that phase and see how you can work, make it work. But then the solvable problems are just, problems between, couples and all of that. So being able to tell the difference and understand what you don't have to solve all of your problems. How do you solve your solvable problems? So again, these are the things again that comes with communications. How do we do this? It's togetherness. It's not how am I gonna do this? Or I did it this way. No. It's how should we do this? What can we do together? Because you always have to include your partner in whatever they do. Because when you don't, then they don't feel valued. They don't feel safe. And this is where all of these conflicts come from, right? To soften your startup. Your startup was the hash one we talked about. I think it was on slide 3, where we talked about the hash startup by Dr. Gartmer. So again, the way you communicate. So if you just go into communication with a lot of accusation, it's never going to be a productive communication, right? Because with that, you can begin to bring in the 4 horsemen we talked about, which is the defensiveness, the content, right? So you just end up bringing all of those things. But if you do go in with, a soft startup, right? Appreciation, I like you. We started this journey because you have these values that I really do enjoy, that I love about you, but however, there are like certain things that happen in a relationship that maybe that that's not really working, or then you cannot start laying those complaints. So but if you have to call your partner and just be like, you know what, you did this, you did that, and start ranting and complaining, it's never going to be productive. So a smooth startup, thinking about think about your relationship like your job. You're not just going to bump into your workplace and start laying complaints. You want to ask, you want to set up a meeting, right? You want to communicate and express how you feel, right? And not just pour out your frustrations by the door. But somehow, when it comes to our relationship, we just end up, as much as we do have those principles in us, we just end up forgetting about those principles and just handle it in whatever manner and form that that we feel. Which again, it's never a healthy way to handle relationships. So if we can put our relationship in place of our work, then we'll see that we'll begin to nourish this, beautiful thing we have. So again, compromise, be tolerant of each other's faults. And I know this is one of the things, these are like values in relationship that somehow it's really hard to find these days. Anybody expects, they're like, oh, this is how I am, therefore you should take me for who I am. If we start taking everybody for who they are, it's going to be a tough one, right? We know that's who you are, but how can you do? Because, that behavior or that character is not working for your partner. So what can you do to make those certain adjustments, right? What can you do? You're not just going to tell your boss, this is how I work, when they're telling you, you should put some things in place. So you listen, right? You will be saying, okay, yeah, I will try, I'll make improvement. And again, that's why I said these are the formula you also have to bring into your relationship. Instead of using the word, oh, this is how I am, you want to compromise, and try to look at that person's issues from their lenses, just to see how it feels.
So I heard a saying. I'm curious to get your opinion, or your professional opinion about it. So again, I don't know it word by word, but essentially, someone says, it's not necessarily about the values of what you have in common with the person you're with, but it's the faults they have, right? Like, can you love someone with their faults,
Hmm.
right? Not just their values. So I'm curious what you would say, I guess, is like a more heavier factor in deciding on a partner, right? Is it about the values, or is it about the faults that they have for you to live with?
Personally, I would say it's about the values, because values is the attractive force, right? You cannot have something that doesn't work for you and try to take in that thing. The main focus here are the values. What did you see in that relationship that made you open up to that relationship? What do you have? And we know the person is not perfect. That's where the second question comes in. They're in their imperfectness. Can you handle that aspect? Is it a problem for you? So let's say, for instance, someone that's not tidy and you are an OCD. Is that something that will ever work for you? Or is it something that's going to be stressing out in your daily life? How is that going to play out in your life? Is that something you can adjust or compromise? If not, then what's the point of going into that relationship and trying to change that person when you already know that this is who they are? The question is, can you accept them for who they are in that aspect? Right? Are there other values enough to mask that aspect?
Yes, because even as you're talking, I'm thinking, I guess professionally for myself, I agree with the values come first, because that's the positive, that's the light, that's where the emotional bank can, become
Bank
wealthy.
account, yeah,
The bank account can become wealthy is based on the values, and typically values don't change, right? That's core, that's our foundation from childhood, or self-reflection, that's core, but faults can change, right?
that's
So
yeah,
yeah, people, hopefully, someone being, valuing you, they would change certain things that are not working,
yeah.
or others can be developed, but ultimately I think it's more secure to have values
Yeah,
first.
absolutely. Because values are the foundation to a relationship, right? You
Right.
cannot just build a nice structure without having proper foundation. So values are the key foundations to a healthy relationship. If someone is not showing up with respect or dishonesty, and you go in, what are you expecting out of that relationship, right? You're expecting they're going to change, when really that's a core value in towards a healthy relationship, and also your values. If honesty is what's more important for me, why would I have to compromise a dishonest person to fit into my world, right? So you also want to assess all of those things, and like Cassandra said, there are things that are changeable, right? Those are like characters and behaviors, not values, right? With time, people can learn, people can adjust to things, right? So if I say, okay, I want to live in the city, and my spouse is saying, oh, I want to live, I want to live in the what do you call it, like outside the city, right?
The country.
In the country. So those are things you both can see how you can adjust to make that, part of your life work, right? So it all depends. But honesty or the key values are things that shouldn't be breakable or bendable, right? Yeah. So principle number 6, overcome gridlock. So gridlock are the conflict that makes you feel rejected by your partner. You keep talking about it, but makes no progress. Again, this is where the communication and listening, because when one party communicates, the other party want to be able to listen and listen very well, right? and listen with an open mind. So this is where again it's like pouring in and pouring out. You have to be able to have your cup ready to receive and also be able to pour out. So this is what will determine if your relationship is going to make progress in life or not. So talking about it and making no progress simply means that person is not listening, or perhaps you're not really communicating it in the language where they understand, or because like that's what we're talking about, coming in and with harsh startup, right? Starting up a conversation with that hash face, what it means is your partner may never be able to really see from your lenses. So you may feel like there's never progress when really perhaps the issue is your communication style. And when issues like that happen, this is where I'll say, okay, it's okay. And it's really healthy phase for you to go seek for therapy and see how an effective communications can be laid out to enable you guys see each other's problems and see how you can resolve it, right?
So
So
I have,
no, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
are you sure you can finish the slide
We'll
first?
try to see. Yeah, we'll quickly brush through it.
Okay. So I'm curious from again an audience perspective, at what point in a conflict do you agree to disagree? Like, is that ever a good option, or should there be something that you solve or come away with? Like, at what point is that the resting point?
At what point is the resting point again is now a personal decision, right? So yeah, because my resting point might be so different from your resting point, right? So it's really, that's why I said communicating to see, okay, how we both can show up for each other, right? What how much do we have to get in order to make sane decisions, right? We have to be able to know what we can tolerate and what height we can achieve before just letting it go and accepting what it is and what. So again, we cannot really bring a formula into this, right? It's as long as it's not overbearing or overgoing, then you can maybe call yourself. But I'll tell couples, give it a couple of minutes. It depends on the issue. So if whereby you're arguing from a specific thing for over 2 minutes, what's the point? How productive is that? So you want to pack it up and see how you can recommunicate that piece, or maybe how you can finally get an external person, which is a therapist, to see how to really explain or really showcase that issues in your relationship.
Thank you.
You know. So yeah, so it's like don't try to solve the problem, move from the grind log to dialogue. So again, grind log is a sign that you have dreams of your life that ain't being addressed or respected. And when it comes to this, really it's hard because if you have been communicating, there's no progress. At this point, I would say seek for an extra help. Get a therapist involved. Let's see how they can look at these issues with each person's lenses and try to see how they can present these issues on the table to enable everyone have a view about the problem. Right. Yeah. So principle 7, create a shared meaning, sharing a deep sense of what is meaningful about your life together. A crucial goal of many marriages is to create an atmosphere that encourages each other to talk honestly about his or her convictions, reminding each other of your true purpose. A team against shaitan, which is an undivided team. You always have to be together, always have to be glue force towards each other, and try to review, try to set goals in our relationship. How far have we come? What goals did we have last year and how did it go? What goals do we have this year? So it again is a goal is together, it's just not separate goals. So reviewing your relationship is an important aspect to a healthy relationship. So again, this I'm just going to quickly brush through this slide. So these are like more. We already done with the 7 principles that will make marriage work. These are like extra tips. So this is again honesty with each other. So staying honest with each other. Emotional dishonesty can create distance between your partner. And like I said, when dishonesty is out of the list or out of the values, what happens is like there's a broken chain in that relationship that no matter what you pour into it, love, affection, no matter what, is never going to be seen. So honesty is one of the huge, if not number one, in that relationship list.
I completely agree with you. I think it was principle one or two that
Mhm.
I think it was one that you mentioned, like without honesty and respect, then how is the relationship going to flourish,
Yeah,
right? And I often hear from women too, anecdotally, like when once you lose respect, that the relationship is like basically done, essentially, right?
yeah.
We
So when you break honesty, respect is gone.
right,
Yeah.
right,
So
yes, that
yeah.
too.
So honesty takes down everything. Honesty takes down respect, takes down love. It takes down every beautiful thing you have in in a relationship, in all the values, all the principles of healthy relationship, right? So
Yeah,
that's just number one of it that really takes down everything.
yeah, because even trust, right? Like
Yeah.
once you break honesty, typically trust follows as well. Like there's a domino.
Honesty and trust can you cannot say you cannot define honesty without trust, and you cannot define trust without honesty. I believe they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. I think it's all part of that, as you're saying, that just the value of being with someone, right? That you love. There is honesty, trust, respect, just attentiveness, support, like these things. And once one is jeopardized, typically the honesty or respect, it creates a domino effect of just
Everything else falls to the side.
right,
So no
right.
matter what you're pouring with love and you don't see anything anymore, right? Because those are the huge principles to a healthy relationship. That's like the platform, right? So if that's taken off, then it's like you don't have anything, you just have an empty structure, which
It's not
yeah,
fulfilling.
which is not fulfilling. The wind can blow it, anything can blow it, the building can go down any given time.
Right. Yeah.
So again, treat your loved one as if they are the most important people in your life because they are, and you want to make them feel they are. Because once you don't do that, again, they don't feel valued, they don't feel loved, right? But if they know they are the center of their world and all of that, what happens? There is room for love, for respect, for good communication. We just end up feeling all of these things, and these are not emotions that has to be shown. It's felt, right? You have to feel it, right? So if you don't feel it, you can say, oh, I trust you, but I don't feel or I don't see it. Then what happens is it's not there, right? So you want to be able to showcase all of these things. So we often find ourselves being more polite, again, like I said, respectful to a pizza delivery guy when than our significant others, right? We're saying thank you, we're acknowledging them, we're giving everything, we're tipping them. But when it comes to our relationship, you can come home to a clean house and you don't say nothing. You don't see all of those things. But the day you come home to a house that's not clean, then you have all the reasons to complain. Really, how how productive is that? So whatever, no matter how tiny it is, you want to always be able to like put in, and try not to take out as much. So again, give up the need to be right, you know. And this usually happens during conflict: who is right and who is wrong, who will lose and who will not lose. So at this point, I always tell couples, maybe you just hold it together and have one question for yourself: how productive is this? Would you rather want to explain how you feel towards that issue, or do you just want to, you know, again, be the winner to the issue? And that's not what we're looking for, right? Because nobody's winning, nobody's losing. It's togetherness, right? You want to be able to see the issues and try to resolve it. So stop the accusations, you. When there's conflict, talk about your feelings instead. Don't neglect intimacy. This is a huge one, right? Because somehow you just end up having this partner that you've been together for years, and you feel. I've actually heard some women say, "Oh, you know what? I've had my kids. I'm done. I don't need this anymore." Really? Yeah, I've heard it a lot. you know, So really, this is not healthy. This is not a healthy way to think. Because what happens, right, is you just beginning to open more doors for things to creep into that relationship, negative thought from the other partner. Because this is one of the ingredients, right, that binds the relationship together, right? So you always want to be intimate with each other, no matter how busy life gets. I know sometimes it could be tiring, but again, trying to make out time for this, trying to keep your work at your workplace, trying to separate your kids when you go to bed, just try to do something, right? So have a platform that works, what works for your family. Some people will say, okay, maybe just weekends. Some say, oh, evenings. It depends on how your structure is or what your needs are in a relationship, but ignoring the other party's needs is never productive. So this is something that you should try to pay attention to, because again, this is what builds a healthy relationship.
Yes, I like what you're saying too. It depends on the relationship as well, right?
Yeah.
If both partners agree that the intimacy can be more limited after children, uh,
Mhm. Yeah, that's what it
if it works for you, it's good for you.
Yeah.
But I like what you're also saying here. It's also about scheduling that quality time, right? So not just sexual intimacy, but even emotional intimacy.
Mhm.
Just building that bond, or not even building, maintaining and nourishing that bond.
Improving it actually.
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Then take care of your physical, emotional, spiritual, intellectual, sexual self, right? Nothing is more appealing than a person who is full of life, love, and interest. We have to be interested in ourselves first in order to be interested in others. Yeah, so self-love is quite important. Self-care, this is where it comes in. As much as you have a relationship, doesn't mean you cannot, create out time for yourself, to take care of yourself, to do things. Again, life is all about balancing, trying to see how everything fits. Yeah. So this is quite an important part, right? Of our life. So make time in your life to exercise and pursue your interests and hobbies that you enjoy, right?
Sorry, you know what? I changed the slide, but I also want to just go back because I do. This is important.
Okay,
I
okay.
was trying to not say anything because of time, but I really do like and respect this part, because a lot of people, they feel they lose themselves in a relationship, right? So now we're more getting into individual therapy instead of the couples therapy, but it
Mhm.
is so important to bring who you are to the relationship, right? And especially as the relationship grows, maybe you become a parent and that changes your identity. But ultimately, just checking in and honoring yourself, that is attractive, because that's how the connection was initially created and what sparked it too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So this again, like you said, this is quite an important piece, right? It's just like you said, this is not more like going into the individual aspect of it. But yeah, so I just touched on this a little bit, so you know that, right? But it's a very important piece. You were yourself, or you had your personal life, your needs and your goals before you met your partner. So trying to also bring that to life while creating another one is quite important, because what happens, like Cassandra said, is at the point you become frustrated, right? It becomes frustration, like you're lost, you don't know who you are, you don't have an identity. Again, that means you weren't able to strike that balance, right? You get to really see where all of these things comes from. And if it's not working, how can you adjust every other aspect of your life to fit in that aspect, right? Yeah. So look at your relationship as an entity and not of itself, right? In every marriage, there's you, your partner, and your relationship. If you neglect to take care of your relationship with the same devotion you give to caring for yourself, it will atrophy. So again, it's just trying to really have that balance, trying to see how you can fit in all of these things. Right. Then focus on the positives. We already talked about this initially. So instead of staying negative and focusing on the problems, how about compiling all of the things you have? There's what we call scoring a relationship, right? So instead of just subtracting the other aspect of your relationship, the positive aspect, how would you score it? What does he have? How can you reach out to that bank account? What's there? What emotional subtraction or deduction can you do, right? So you want to have all of these things in order for you to focus on the positive times when those hurdles hit.
I think a few weeks ago I was hearing a sermon from a pastor, and he was saying to look at a relationship as if like math, right? As if an equation. So you want to add the good, right?
Mhm.
You want to subtract what doesn't work. You want to divide responsibilities, multiply wealth, the emotional bank accounts. So just as you were talking, I'm like, yeah, this it's like math, right?
Like maths, right? Because usually we just focus on the subtraction when really there's like addition, division, just everything. So you want to sum it up again back to your emotional bank account. So you need that for a healthy relationship. So
Absolutely.
don't go online to find understanding for anything else. From your partner should be providing. So what are we trying to say now with the social media? We're going out there, we're putting out our issues out there. People are helping us decide when really our experiences are different from all these people's experiences. Our values are different from theirs. So you cannot really open the doors for everybody to come in. So if you do have a problem like this, communicate. Communicate. If it's not working, seek extra support. Go to a therapist who can restructure and modify the issues that's happening. Find a balance in your work and lifestyle. We already talked about this, right? So keep your work at your workplace, home for your home, relationship. Just try to separate everything, right? That's what we call balancing. Then have fun. As years goes by in marriage, we get so focused on work, kids, in-laws, financial concerns that we forget to have fun. Laughter and love goes hand in hand. We share our sorrows in marriage, so we don't forget to share the joys. So make time together to do fun things. If you can afford to go away together, pack a picnic lunch and go for a hike. Talk about the things you love about each other and the things that makes you laugh. So just have fun. We don't really have to have everything in order for us to have those fun. It's what we call memories, going down those memory lane. And that's why you say you always want to stop and check in with each other. Like this slide said, picnic, right? Just having a drink, just walking down or taking a walk, just doing something that's gonna create that connection between you guys. And that's quite fulfilling. And these are the things we need in our relationship in order for it to flourish. So yeah, I believe this is the last slide, right?
Yes,
Yeah, this is
yes.
the last
Thank
slide.
you. Thank you so much, Princess, for such a wealth amount of knowledge and great tips on how someone can, maintain and make their marriage work and even their relationships that they want to become, more sacred in a marriage way. I would say, as much as we were talking about the heterosexual relationship, to honestly, this applies to same sex relationships and marriages as well. Ultimately, what you're saying, have communication, have understanding, and when those moments feel hard, do seek extra support if you
Mhm.
need to. So here's our information for those that are interested in booking with Princess and, really talking about your relationship, right? Whether it's couples therapy, individual therapy, we are here to support you. So please contact us. And I really do thank you for your time today, Princess.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you, Cassandra, for having me.
Absolutely. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.